In the beginning, the great Primus gave his life to transform into the world of Cybertron, and with it, he created 13 warriors to serve as the leaders of this new world. The 13 Primes, the first Transformers. But there was a traitor among them. The strongest of the Primes, Megatronus Prime, would betray his comrade to commit the first murder on Cybertron, becoming known simply as the Fallen, whose face would become the icon of another tragic betrayer to the Transformers race. There is more to this dark night than meets the eye, and should you want to know more, good fucking luck, because they can't decide what this guy's backstory or even the Primes in general. Like, was Sentinel a Prime, or is he Zeta now? Or hell, in one, they kind of make him and Zeta two different guys. Also, are the Primes siblings or not? Because Megatronus apparently dated Solus, and quite frankly, we might have an issue depending on the answer. Right then, so right now the new Transformers line is upon us with Age of the Primes! And of course, a lot of it is continuing off of what Legacy started, with lots of comebacks for characters from different regions of Transformers history. But can we please finish the Beast Wars cast? Just give me Crab, Manta Ray, and oh hey, you're doing Quickstrike, cool. But the focus this time around are the first big figures of the Primes for quite a while in all their constantly retconned glory. Sorry if I don't sound the most enthusiastic about them, but story-wise, I don't know, they just kind of fell flat for me a lot of the time. Like, they're trying to add a sense of grandiose and majesty, but it always felt undercooked. One's Primes are probably one of the better ones, and they all died in that one. Even the one I really like, Vector frickin' Prime, one of my favorite characters, got sidelined once he got part of this dang lore. Why? He was one of the coolest parts of Cybertron. Let Grandpa control time again. Not even the Bavers. Despite a crazy design like he was one of the Paracas from Bionicle, and despite having the legendary Tony Todd voicing him, the Fallen has fallen flat once again, with his only memorable scene being his thorough ass-kicking by Optimus. And as for Megatronus Prime / the Fallen, again, his most impactful role was in one where all he did was die and have a pretty rad sticker. Even his name kinda sucks, The Fallen. Sounds like a mid-2000s metalcore band with an overly polished chorus. You know the kind. But after all that character assassination, let's look at his toys at least. Starting with his debut War Within figure from 2006. Oh god, explaining War Within. Oh god, that means explaining Dreamwave and Pat Lee. Dreamwave were a Canadian comic publisher who made Transformers comics in the early 2000s that were insanely popular. And their founder, Pat Lee's art style, kind of became the default style of Transformers for a while. And he even designed a few characters, including Megatronus the Fallen in reverse here. And no surprise there was a figure made for this design of the character. But what might surprise you is, it's a titanium figure. To recap on Titanium, it was a very short-lived collector-oriented line of deluxe-sized figures, where the big thing was tackling all aspects of Transformers history and the return of die-cast metal. I've covered two so far, War Within Optimus and G1 Soundwave, or as I like to call them, Optimus and Diaperwave. These are some of the worst Transformers figures ever made, from awkward proportions to awful paintwork, loose limbs, basic articulation, to the logistics nightmare of the die-cast metal causing these guys to flop about pathetically. So with those figures in mind, then it should be no wonder that this figure it is a bit of a wonder, because it's actually pretty decent. In comparison to the messy job that was Optity Prime, the Fallen looks a lot more subdued, actually pulling off a very good burnt ashy metal look. I generally like it when they can work really well with molded material rather than paint. And the design is pretty good. No bizarre proportions or obviously janky bits. The rounded thighs are a bit of an odd choice initially, but they allow for some articulation. And the hands, I was gonna complain at first, but I don't know, I kinda also weirdly love them. They're bizarrely G1-like with their trapezoidal look, and they can swivel. These rubberized guns though, there was no point for these things to be so rubbery when they would have been thick enough with plastic! You probably also noticed the big old flames on his back. That's because in the comics, this guy was always on fire, all the time. Considering this guy had a confirmed lover with Solus Prime, and sweet Primus, her cybernetic cooch must have been completely crushed. When you take into account that this was before effects parts, this is a neat way of doing the flames before those, even if it does result in a big old backpack that doesn't like to stay secure. Speaking of insecurities, this figure likes to bounce around more than your mother's breasts, thanks to all that die-cast metal loosening him up. Though he stays together a lot more than some other titanium figures, and compared to those figures, he's a lot more articulated, with plenty of rotations, swivels, and spreads galore. They even made the smart realization of using ratchet joints in areas for the die-cast metal. Only took them Wave 6? So these knee joints, pathetic. Combiner Wars has more movement.
Whoops.
And the transformation is definitely one of the better ones from Titanium. It doesn't feel like tummy time and actually requires a bit of thought. And the tank ain't bad for the time. Very rugged and industrial like the robot, though it doesn't hold the best due to the loosening of the metal. But overall for Titanium, it's not a bad little figure. And for the time, if you wanted a figure of this version of the character, this was a pretty nice option. And it'd be your only option for a long time because, well, remember I mentioned Dreamwave earlier? Well, there's superstar artist Pat Lee, the guy who designed this character and was basically the art director for Transformers for the first half of the 2000s. Turns out most of the art for Transformers he did was ghost drawn by other artists, and he only did the robots, if that. And people started to dissect his art and started to realize a lot of issues. And ghost artists would be one thing, it's another to not only not pay them, but embezzle money from his own company and spending it on things like promo campaigns for his girlfriend for Miss Hong Kong 2006 and a company-owned Porsche. Not even a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, a Porsche, the lamest sports car around.
You know what they say about men who drive Porsches, tiny penises.
So with all that bad press and with Dreamwave comics being thoroughly replaced by IDW and later Skybound, it seems like this version of the character was going to be forgotten. But surprise! Good God, what an absolute unit of a figure we got. I know this is comparing apples to pineapples in terms of size, but seriously, this thing is just an absolute chunker. The industrial vintage is still as prevalent as ever, though we don't get that ashy metal look that the titanium figure had, but it still looks really dark and sensual. The head is especially improved, where now this guy looks absolutely angry all the time. Kind of reminds me of Baron Karza from the Micronauts. Note to self, review this thing so people under 50 know what the hell I'm talking about. There's also all these spikes on him that just give him a look like he'll tear your hand up when you hold him. Even his backpack has these ridges. The only part I'm a bit confused at are his feet, which has proper toes. Kind of feels like he's walking around barefoot. Letting them all hang out. In terms of accessories, you get a lot for a leader, and they didn't have to upscale him. You get a tank barrel, some more little guns and missiles, the Requiem blaster, a big old machete, a wonky looking axe, and probably the most noteworthy, the fire effects. Viewers of my channel know I just despise blast effects. I just feel like they're a waste of plastic normally. Just static, boring fart blasts. But these fire effects, oh yeah, these are the flames of passion. Yeah, the figure looks good without them, but these just complete the image and fits the burning industrial robot look perfectly. Though on closer look, it kind of reminds me of the oil painting Photoshop effect. Yes, I pay for Photoshop. I collect Transformers. I didn't make good financial decisions to begin with. And I can attach them to other figures because they use 5mm pegs. Give a character a flaming fist, add onto the mech tech pile, or have him eat 5 guys once. Articulation is also immensely solid with a ball jointed head, full rotation at the shoulder, T-pose, hinge at the elbow, wrist, and hinged fingers. Glad hinged fingers are starting to show up more and more on smaller figures outside of Masterpiece now. And these hands are on ball joints, which allow for much more freedom in movements. Nice to see Hasbro designers getting their balls back. His chest can go up for the transformation, use this as you please. Insanely good butterflying at the shoulder allows for very dynamic posing, and stupid recurring joke poses. Jobby reference, other jobby reference, rotation of the upper legs and knees, 90-degree hinges on the knees, hinges in the feet, allowing for backwards and forward movement, and the mother of all ankle pivots. Dang, son, no wonder you let them grippers out. This robot mode is absolutely fantastic. Everything poses about super well. It looks so clean and crisp. You can even pull off this pose of the week. This feels like what a leader class figure should be in terms of size, articulation, and gimmicks. But how do we transform? The transformation is surprisingly intricate, but also pretty dang cool. And thankfully, it doesn't rely too much on the backpack to hold up everything. And the tank is pretty rad too. Very durable, very industrious, and of course, flammable. And thankfully, the tank can rotate and point around, which I massively appreciate. Makes this so much more fun to mess with. And now, I know what y'all are thinking right now. Are they gonna rework this into Studio Series 86 Megatron? That'll no doubt happen because they don't want to make him a gun. No! Apparently this is gonna be its own thing, which honestly makes me so happy. Because this bulky monster doesn't really fit the lean and mean Megatron. It didn't fit him when they did it for Siege and his liver spots. And this makes this figure a unique one. He'll stand on his own, proudly as a monolith of industrial intensity. An absolute triumph, especially in the first wave of Age of the Primes. I highly recommend this guy, and the rest of the Prime figures so far, they're all really good. I don't give a rat's ass about any of the Prime lore, but these figures have been bangers so far, and I'm really excited for the Titan Star Prime coming out too. What about you? What do you think of the Fallen here, and the 13 Primes in general? Are you a fan of them, or are you like me and just don't care? Or maybe you care about the toys. Let me know in the comments, and please subscribe.
I like my beer cold and my homosexuals flaming.